Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone based on where you're calling in from in the world. But I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of my intersection of leadership as the senior director of product at PowerToFly, also have led various product launches specifically for DEIB at my previous orgs. And so it's a new lane that I think I carved out for myself along my career journey, and I stumbled upon it, and it's something that I love. And the fact that I get to do that with a brilliant team every single day makes me really happy. So nothing to add in that regard. I guess some personal exciting things to add to my background. Today's my birthday, and my last name is changed. So I'm actually a Kurbos, recently married. So a lot of things happening in my personal life that I'm really excited about. So I figured I'd throw that in there.
Yes, congratulations. So exciting.
Yes. So I saw the slide and I chuckled. I'm like, this is like one of the many things that happens, right? When you're, you have to go through the process of changing your name. But yes, really excited to speak with you today and get into the nitty gritty around the topic of integrating DEIB in the product roadmap, regardless of if you're focused on building DEIB specific products or not.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's break that down, right? So let's discuss that relationship between DEIB and product management. For people who might not be, in the mix of stuff like this all the time, what should we know about the relationship between the two things?
Yeah, that's a great question. To me, it's DIB as a construct of a pillar of product management is a newer concept, as I described. But to me, it should be part of every product manager or product leader's like fundamental process of how they think about products. So what we do as product people is we create value for end users, right? The people on the other side of the screen, speaking in software product, not consumer packaged good products, but from a software perspective, we're trying to create value for users on the other side of the screen, because that value creates an attachment to the user and the product so that they can keep coming back, so that they think of your products when they need to do X because it's easy for them to use, right? And then on the business side, we're excited about that because that means revenue for all of us, right? And so that's really the basic system of product management and why it exists. Now, when we add that the relationship between product as a discipline and DEIB, kind of think in these binary terms. We're talking gender, we're talking race, we're talking ethnicity, we're talking sexual orientation, right? So in these very like binary or pockets or groups, but really it's much bigger than that, right? It includes those things and so much more. And so we actually look at the relationship between product and DEIB to focus on the value that you're creating for that person on the other side of the screen, keeping in mind and having an attention to detail of their lived experience. So I think that's how you can make sure that your roadmap is anchored in DEIB, that as you're going through and you're creating a feature or an improvement, not just thinking about the broader scope of users, but you're thinking about all of the different permutations of someone's lived experience and how they might be using, receiving, or interpreting value for them. And it's a very different skill set, right? Because we all know the 80-20 rule. You want to build something that's going to suit 80% of your audience. But really, the DEIB teaches us to kind of flip that on its head and say, we also have to consider the 20% as well. So that's what I would say around the relationship between DEIB and product management overall.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for kind of detailing that out for us, because it goes back to a lot of the same stuff that we say, on every DEIB chat, which is, a lot of the ones we do, is this idea of baking the DEIB mindset and priorities into your process. This is not something that happens on like the second pass through or is like, should be an afterthought. This should be something that is part of the framework, right? It's,
Yes.
you know, and once we, you know, work at normalizing that and getting that into that routine, it makes it easier. But, you know, it's going to be difficult because you are trying to change things.
Absolutely. You know, I have a few real life examples that I will be sharing throughout the course of our conversation, but you know, you're so spot on. I'm sure we all know and love Pinterest, right? And one of the features that kind of evolved over the years through Pinterest is a filter on your avatar. So that way Pinterest can understand more about who you are, right? In order to create that value to show you things that inspire without kind of genericizing who you might be on the other side of the screen. So an example that I use is during my engagement photos, I wanted a milky white nail polish color. So I go to Pinterest and I look up milky white nail polish, and all of the skin tones were fair skin. So I have actually no idea right now, 80-20 rule. From a Pinterest standpoint, 80% of the pictures that their machine learning used likely were on fair skin tones, and it showed me those results and said, this person probably really wants to see what is the most relevant for milky white. And then my skin tone was at the bottom of the scoring in terms of priority. But now they introduced a filter that I can actually add it adds that input, right? We're now converting this social construct into a data point that says, take this person's X variable, in this case, it was my skin tone, into account when showing her the results. So we're not only getting her a picture of something that's milky white and not like purple nail polish, but also it's refining that so she can see her nail polish in her skin tone and see, is this what you're looking for? Is this a good match? And so I think that's kind of what we talk about, where we're saying we want to be able to not only cast a broad net, but we want to be able to kind of create these experiences that are delightful to people in that 20%. And to me, that's what building inclusive.
Yeah. So as you're talking about this and you're talking about the 80-20 kind of rules, I was thinking back to, I was Black Friday or Black Friday shopping, and was on the Woxer website. And I had never been on there before, but I took a screenshot of it because I thought it was so cool, but it was basically about like accessibility profiles that you can set up on their website. So I'm sure this is not going to display well, nope, at all. But basically it talked about like, you could toggle on and off different features. So some of the options were a seizure safe profile, a vision impaired profile, and my favorite, an ADHD friendly profile, which has more focus and fewer distractions, so that you can shop like without being overwhelmed on the website. Like truly, y'all, this is one of those things that like I absolutely can hear people screaming like, snowflake, blah, blah. No, this is amazing. This is super cool. And this is how we use technology to make the world better. Like, this is amazing.
Absolutely.
And that's one website.
Absolutely.
One website that I'll shop at, and I probably won't visit it again for months. And I still think that is so cool.
Absolutely. And these are some of the capabilities that are becoming table stakes. So in products, we have requirements, two main areas. We have functional requirements, which is, I don't know the site you were shopping on, I didn't catch it, but you know, you want to go and you want to filter on the site, you want to search on the site. Those are functional requirements of capabilities we want to deliver. And then there are these non-functional requirements, which are that site needs to be secure, right? So we don't want anybody to steal your data. It's not functionally something that you do on the site, but it's an expectation that you have. And so when we look at things like accessibility, it's starting to become part of both functional and non-functional requirements, that this needs to be a native part of your application. And quite frankly, I think accessibility is one of the areas that is so underrated in terms of product management. And I think we could all do better as leaders at keeping that more top of mind, because the accessibility community is huge, and we all have, whether you can see them or not, different accessibility experiences to the point of what you just raised that can really just make our products more appealing to people who have these different challenges, right? And we want to make it more pleasant for them and everyone all together. So that's another great area that you called out as well.
Thank you. All right, so let's talk about that product roadmap that you discussed earlier. What are some of the areas that are often overlooked when it comes to the DEIB as it plays into this process?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many areas that are overlooked. You know, one that I'll kind of hone in on are your metrics. So there's this saying, right? Like what you measure shows what you value. And in product, we can tend to be very focused on metrics around, usage, wow mal, which is just a term that we use for weekly active users, monthly active users, right? Like number of downloads, right? Or number of SKUs sold for a particular product, right? And we can get really anchored and focused on those metrics to drive the roadmap, right? In addition to user feedback, of course. But I think what's overlooked is kind of taking an approach of your roadmap where you have OKRs that are focused on diversity metrics, right? So why don't we actually take this example of accessibility, right? Why not have a roadmap where you have OKRs that are tied to accessibility standards and not even legal standards, because something can be accessible, like on paper, it checks the boxes, but it's still not usable. So this is where I think we can all improve in terms of having metrics that help us have a place to revisit and ensure that we're kind of improving our product across these different dimensions. And so one other example that I can give you, a live example, is from a book actually that I brought out for this talk called Data Feminism. I highly recommend for any data enthusiasts out there. But in this book, the authors share an anecdote from Serena Williams. And Serena Williams had a little girl, I believe, a couple of years ago. And during her pregnancy and delivery process, she had some severe complications. And so they describe this journey of the complications that Serena Williams had, and the fact that, any data that talked about or that recorded and considered and kind of described the statistics around how often women of color were impacted and potentially at risk of death during childbirths. But we have all of this other data around like torn ligaments, knee replacements, shoulder dislocations. So as a society, it shows what we value. Why till now has there not been an emphasis on understanding women and the process of birth that some of us go through, and how it might be impacted by things like our backgrounds, even socioeconomic status, she kind of talks about. And so when you fail to kind of keep these metrics in mind and revisit them, it kind of shows that it's a blind spot that you have. And so it's a wonderful story that gets told through this book among many other anecdotes. But I think that's an area that we can focus on that often gets overlooked in product roadmaps, which are kind of tying our successes back to KPIs rooted in DEIB.
I love what you said about, trying to what companies focus on or where their attention is shows you like what's important to them. Yeah. And I love how you talked about trying to know what you don't know, or keep your mind open and realize that there's going to be a bunch of things that you don't understand or don't know how they could impact. But I like the idea of coming back to those OKRs because it gives you those touch points, right? It's going to, like, as disorienting or overwhelming as it can seem sometimes, especially if you are not within the DEIB field, it can feel like you'll never know everything, because you won't.
Right.
But being able to come back to those OKRs, I think would give you a much better control of your improvements in that area.
Yes,
it allows you to be lost, but also know that you're making progress.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that we look at PowerToFly, I know this might be something that we kind of go deeper into later, but one of the things we evaluate is who is using our app and their lived experience. So when you come to PowerToFly, we quite literally want to understand and capture data around any sort of groups that you're affiliated with, that you're part of, so we can understand more conceptually around if you engage in this group or this type of content, does this tell us more about you, and how from there can we create a better experience for you? So we actually track that data so that way we can improve our product for you. And if we didn't if we failed to focus on those metrics, we wouldn't be able to offer this kind of premium and tailored and personalized experience for the different groups and communities. And, to Matt Henry's point, intersectional folks on our platform.
Yes. And you know what, you raise a really, really good point there, which is, we ask for these kind of self-identity things, not only because we want people to be able to have the content that matters to them, things that are impactful for them, but also because these are making it a metric, right? Making it an official something that we are tracking, or that we are, using something, trying to get data, whatever, as opposed to relying on kind of anecdotal or experiential evidence, right? I can tell you the kind of people that I see, at least when they turn on cameras in our events, right? But I can't tell you people that don't. I can't tell you all of our events. I only host 1% or whatever it is. Yeah. So I love the idea of not only making this something that you are talking about that is a focus, but it's official, it's being tracked. It's not something that you're relying on word of mouth or, people's own personal impressions alone. So exactly. I think that's great.
Yeah.
All right. So if you are a product manager and you don't feel like you have that DEIB focus, how can people shift and make that more of a priority in their work?
How can PMs have this shift to make it more a priority? I would say reading tons of books. I mean, I have so many books over here that I've accumulated over the years. Race After Technology, Data Feminism. Pick a category of inclusion, of diversity, of belonging, and read about it. And those topics alone will help kind of pique your interest as a product manager, as a product designer. I mean, belonging and inclusion in just the design of a product alone is so tightly coupled that it almost makes you wonder, how is DEIB kind of just coming to the forefront of product? But for design, it is so imperative. And so when you start to kind of broaden your perspective by reading these books and really understanding, these social constructs, it will inevitably make you a better a product manager and product designer, because it'll force you to ask the right types of questions and be more inquisitive. And that's really what it's all about. And I actually learned this from a founder of an AI ML company, female founded, Dublin-based company called opening.io. And her name was Andrea Wade. And she always kind of told me about stories around how before my former company acquired them, how the data scientists at the company were always surrounded by a library of tons of books, and that it broadened their perspective for them to actually build better software. And so for me, it was a no-brainer. Well, if I'm carving out this lane as a product person and I want to build my skill set in, in this case, it wasn't machine learning, it was in DEIB, then I need to surround myself from different perspectives. And the easiest and quickest way to do that is through books. So I think I just shared one book. It's a great start, but you can certainly do a little Google search and find others.
Yeah, of course. I shared links for both of those books. I know obviously Amazon is the go-to. I shared from Abe. Sorry, y'all. Bezos has enough of my money.
That's right.
But, buy used or, borrow from a friend. Check out your local libraries. I used to be in library media. These libraries are huge resources. Yes. But yeah, absolutely.
One other quick anecdote. I know we're running out of time. I feel like I have so much
You're
to
okay.
share.
No, we've got 8 minutes. You're good.
But I think to this point about books bringing you perspective, for any product person that's really thinks like a product person, even in their personal life, that's like me. You can even draw inspiration from not just what you read, but what you see on TV. And recently I watched Dancing with the Stars. It was a show I used to watch when I was a lot younger. And I picked it up again. My husband and I were watching it. And there was a actor from the movie Coda who has a disability of hearing. So he does mostly sign language, and he can feel some of the beats, but he actually cannot hear the music. And he made it to the semifinals because he was really good at dancing despite not being able to rely on the music. And his partner, the professional dancer, her name was Bree, she did a routine where for 30 seconds or a certain amount of time in the routine, the music was turned off and they kept dancing. And the whole audience like burst into tears, like just understanding that, wow, this is how much I rely on the music, right? And so for me, like that's perspective. Like then my product brain starts going and I think about, you know, what are these scenarios that I'm failing to realize or understand that is just like a learned behavior or something that I just take for granted when we're building products that I need to consider. And so, you know, if you fill your mind and your spirit with the right things, you can draw that skill from anywhere, even Dancing with the Stars.
Yes, I love this. And honestly, this goes to, I mean, it's a recurring theme in so many different sessions that we have here at PowerToFly, but that idea that it's okay not to know everything. It's best even to know that you don't know everything.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you are curious,
yes,
you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Stay curious because it means you will always have that healthy understanding that there's many things that you don't know.
Absolutely.
Right. I think that can absolutely help people. Okay, so we've got 4 minutes left. I want to talk about how you see the you know, your approaches and the initiatives that you put in place here at PowerToFly. How do you see those impacting our organization's overall DEIB strategy? You know, what changes are you seeing?
Yes, at PowerToFly, it's a little bit different because we have the luxury of actually building products for both our communities and our clients, right, that are quite literally rooted in DEIB. So in other companies, right, DEIB is kind of like a derivative or like a tangential experience, right? That's mostly of what we've been talking about, but we're quite literally building software that helps kind of break down this inequity between job seekers and employers. And so some of the strategies and approaches that we're taking is to think of our ecosystem as supply and demand, because we all know Uber has a masterclass in all things supply and demand. And so when we're looking at that ecosystem, we never build a product for employers without considering the impact on the community. And having that balance of the ecosystem ensures that we are building with this social conscious muscle in mind, so that way we continue to build that layer of trust. And so we have these like core principles of, you know, making sure that we have that transparency with our talent, right? That we continue to build that credibility with them and that relationship. And that helps us think about our product offerings, even for our clients, in a different lens. And I think that's kind of like the secret sauce. And that's how I see it impacting that, you know, PowerToFly as a whole. Because, you know, we're not just in it for profits. We have a duty to better serve our community. And so there's like a lot of other companies out there doing quick and dirty things to kind of, you know, to make a quick buck, and that's just not sustainable. And so I'm really just, quite frankly, like proud of the intersectional, diverse, and inclusive team that we've built in product that are behind, you know, what you are using every day. And a little spoiler alert, in the beginning of the year, we're going to be launching some new improvements to our design and our experience for the product. So your events, you'll be able to organize your events that you've attended, categorize them, you know, see what's live, you know, what has happened in the past, better organize and categorize your jobs. So we have a lot of investments that we're making in our community, but what this all boils down to is just not forgetting about our community, in addition to building products and tools that help our employers become more inclusive overall. So,
yeah. Oh, I got to tell you, you know, I've been with PowerToFly for almost 4 years, And my last job prior to this was kind of a nightmare. So anything after that was going to be a glow up. But that was one of the things that struck me the first. I joined PowerToFly in 2019, and the importance and it's not necessarily casual, but it was like, it was like, well, this is how we do things here. This is how it's done. You know, like we prioritize DEIB, we make it the absolute center. It is the heart of our mission. And, you know, we saw a lot of companies have a lot of change take place, especially in light of so much that happened in 2020, you know, past hate crimes and murders and all these things coming to light. And we did see a lot of companies starting to, like, you know, be transparent and say, like, hey, we're not in a great place. This is where we are, but we're trying to get better. And y'all, PowerToFly was not immune from that. We always have things that we can do better. So even though I loved what I came, you know, like what I saw in the org when I came in 2019, I love what I see now even more, because like we really, like, we are always improving. There is always more improvement to be done. And it's not exhausting, it's exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, and we're here and we exist because of our community, right? So we need to make sure that stays like a core focal point, and we have a whole team dedicated to this, better understanding our community, what you're looking for, what you need to get out of the platform. And we essentially want to become like the diversity focused, like LinkedIn for our communities, right? We want people to come to PowerToFly.com, not just when you're applying for a job, but to build community, to network, and everything in between. So
yeah, thank you. All right, that's going to bring us to the end of time today. But Amber, thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I've loved getting a chance to meet you and talk to you about not just about PowerToFly, but also about like how these concepts can help other companies and other product managers in their roles. Thank you so much. It's just been wonderful. Thank you
so much. It's been a pleasure. Take care, everyone. And yeah, hopefully you can have me back soon.